everyone, my name is Justine Leslie. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I help newly awakened empaths navigate their spiritual awakening, connect more to their soul, get into flow and alignment, and open their intuitive gifts, develop their intuitive gifts, okay? So welcome to my channel, and I'm so glad that you're here. So today I wanted to talk about 8 types of empaths. So I talk about empaths a lot. The reason I talk about them a lot is because it is a temperament that doesn't really get recognized a lot as something that really exists. And as an empath, I have always felt crazy until about 7 or 8 years ago when I finally discovered that I was an empath, and basically everything started to make sense in my life. So I was very, very grateful. So that's why I talk about them a lot. And we are waking up each day to this reality that we're not exactly like other people, and there's different ways to manage how we are. And it's not a positive thing or a negative thing, right? It's just you are an empath, and that's what it is. I mean, I do see it as a positive as long as we can get to an empowered place. It's a real blessing to be an empath, but sometimes people can find it really tough. But we won't be talking about that in this particular video. I have other videos on how to protect your energy, how to survive as an empath, and other tools that might be helpful to you guys. So please check them out. What I wanted to talk about today was the 8 types of empaths, to really dive a lot deeper on the self-actualization process of finding out that you're an empath. Because when I started finding out the types of empaths that I were, and yes, you can be more than one, it made a lot more sense, okay? So I just went a lot deeper with my self-actualization process, okay? So with that being said, I'm going to give a definition of an empath, and basically I call it a temperament, and basically it's the ability to pick up on energy. Energy is everything, and it's there whether you can pick up on it or not, but empaths definitely can. They often can feel very deeply as well, and then often are blessed with a lot of intuitive gifts, okay? So they tend to be a lot more intuitive, and that's for the sensitivity factor, right? So with that being said, let me go into the 8 types. I'd love to hear in the comments, if which one that you identify with, if you identify with more than one, if you agree with this list or want to add anything. I'd love to hear it, guys. You know I love when things are interactive, and I respond to comments pretty quickly. Okay, so let's dive into it, guys, and we'll start with kind of the obvious. So the first type of empath is an emotional empath. And so a lot of you might be thinking, aren't all empaths emotional empaths and pick up on other people's emotions? Yes and no. And what I mean by that is that I've met a lot of empaths that are not emotional. I really have felt that, and they admit it to me as well. So it's not just me making an assumption or feeling it, right? But they can pick up on energy, but not necessarily other people's emotions. So this is I have talked in my other videos about clairsentience, which is clear feeling. And basically empaths that are emotional empaths are really high in that clair gift, so in that intuitive gift. And basically it is the extrasensory perception of being able to feel. So not all empaths are dominant in the clairsentience, and not all empaths, again, can pick up on other people's emotions or are emotional. So I just want to point something else out, is that sometimes, and I feel like I fit into this category of an emotional empath, is that there's a difference between stuffing our feelings, right? And this is where I'm talking about being a disempowered empath and not having control over your own emotions and stuffing them because you don't want to feel them. And I did that for about 27 years of my life. I also was not grown up in a family, brought up in a family where we talked about emotions. So I stuffed pretty much everything, but it didn't mean that I wasn't emotional. I definitely was. I was just hiding it. I was drinking alcohol to try to suppress it, and that kind of thing, right? So anyway, so you can be an emotional empath even if you're in that place, if you're in a disempowered place where you're really suppressing a lot of your feelings. So there's a difference there. So you could be an emotional empath. I'm talking about people that are an empowered empath, and that's just not their strength. Their emotions are not their strength, and that's okay. It doesn't mean, even though it's technically in some people's definitions of what an empath actually is, not everybody identifies with the term emotional empath, okay? And this goes into my second one. So the second type of empath is intuitive empath, right? So a lot of you also might be thinking, well, didn't you just say they have strong intuitive gifts? Yes, but it's not necessarily dominant, and it's not necessarily with strongest in everyone, okay? Because I actually come from the perspective that everybody has intuition. We were born with this gift. I wouldn't be here preaching that if I didn't think that was true. I mean, it's been my whole life, intuition, and it's been my savior, and I 100% stand behind that. Everybody has the gift of intuition. Nobody was born without it, and this includes the extreme logical or intellectuals that say that they don't have it, but they sure do. They just have a harder time really accessing it, or using it or developing it, right? So with that being said, everybody has the gift, but some are just not developed in it. I categorize myself as an intuitive empath, as well as an emotional empath. But again, some people are not identifying with that, and they're like, yeah, maybe I'm intuitive, but it's not like my strong suit, or it's not something that I would categorize myself as, right? Okay. The next one is dream empath. So this one is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, most of them are. So this just means that you're extremely dream-oriented. You have a lot of vivid dreams. You are almost an expert, basically, at dream interpretation. That's your forte. You get premonitions a lot. You have a lot of, so this can be considered, in my opinion, I would consider this a type of intuition, dream interpretation in dreams, but that's really kind of what you're connected to. So I meet a lot of dream empaths that actually do it for a living and do dream interpretations and things like that, but not everybody is connected to that, being sensitive to dreams and sensitive to dream interpretation, okay? I do not categorize myself as a dream empath. I go to a friend of mine that actually is. Okay, next one is global empath, okay? So this one might surprise you guys. So anytime anything happens on a global scale, especially if it is something negative, empaths feel that. Global empaths feel that. I mean, political things, war, nightclub shootings, any big thing that happens, not even just in your own country, I meant in the world, to other people. And most of the time you don't have a personal story invested into it, and that's the whole point of empaths, right? Is that you don't really necessarily have to be connected to the person to have empathy for them and actually feel for them and be connected to somebody. That's part of it. So most of the time we don't even know the people on the other side of the world going through this tragedy, but we can really feel it with global empaths. And global empaths are usually the ones that are very invested in global change, policy change, changing the world. You tend to watch the news as much as you can, because being an empath, watching the news a lot could be really negative. And when something like a school shooting or something happens, you can really feel it and be down for days. And it can be really, really hard to get yourself out of that hole and get yourself back up, because it really kind of takes you down. So your sensitivity is really in the well-being of a mass amount of people, and really in how do I say this? Global change, essentially. Okay, so the next one is this. Not a lot of people talk about this one. It's called the Geomantic empath, and it's about sensitive to people and places and history. So I would actually categorize this empath as somebody that could walk into a house and understand the space, meaning that they understand what happened there. They love history. They love when they go traveling. They love travel, and when they go traveling, they try to hit all the museums, and they really want to go. They're very much drawn to historical sites and things like that. And then once they get there, they can definitely feel what's been going on there and what transpires there. And I believe these types of empaths are more connected to ghosts and, ghost tours and like things like that, because they can feel the energy of the places and the history of the places. So they are definitely more attached to that. Also too, they are attached to the earth too. So meaning that they're they can sense like an earthquake coming, or they know when a natural disaster has hit, before it has hit. They're very connected in that way. So it's a very interesting type of empath. It's, in my opinion, the least kind. I haven't met a ton of geomantic empaths. I am not one, so it is kind of hard to explain, but this is how I imagine it to feel. It feels familiar, and it feels like you're just very grounded and also just connected to history. That's how I see a geomantic empath. Okay, the next one is environmental and or plant empath, and essentially it's pretty straightforward. You guys are the ones saving the planet, and I'm not an environmental empath, and I need to be because this planet is dying essentially. So they're the ones that feel very connected to nature, very connected to environmental issues. They're usually in activism when it comes to environmental things. They have lots of plants. They talk to their plants. They can feel their plants' feelings. I've heard of this as well. I've heard people say this before. They just feel very connected to plants and greenery and nature in general. The next one is animal empath. And just like plants, they are connected to the animal kingdom. I actually foster cats. I actually just started doing that about 2 months ago, and I do not feel like I am an animal empath. I feel like I'm an animal person, but I have a really hard time communicating with my cats. I'm like, what does my cat want when she does this? I'm very out of the loop, even though I have a big heart and I am an empath, but I wouldn't categorize myself as an animal empath. Animal empaths know when their dog is speaking to them. I know so many pet psychics that basically they can communicate with animals, feel very drawn to animals at a very young age, and basically just huge animal lovers, and can actually understand them and feel and be sensitive to them and feel what they're feeling most of the time. Okay, if you feel a disconnect like I do sometimes with animals and communication, you're probably not one, and that's okay. You can still love animals and not necessarily be an animal empath, right? Okay. And the last one, physical empath. So this one is for all my medical mediums out there. So I don't know if anybody has ever heard the term medical intuitive or medical medium, but essentially it's about being able to feel either disease or disconnect or how do I say this? Suppressed feelings even within your body, and they can do a body scan around that. So essentially they can basically, and don't quote me on this because this is also not an empath that I resonate with, but they can do a scan either with their hands and really see if something is wrong with your knee or a digestive issue, and then people go ahead and go to the doctor, and the doctor confirms, right? So they have that special connection with people's bodies, and are able to pick up that kind of stuff. So very interesting stuff, and very gifted if you categorize yourself as a medical intuitive or medical medium. Okay, cool. All right, guys, so that was 8. Some people say there's more, some people say that there's less, but I'm going to recap them. We have the intuitive empath, the emotional empath, the dream empath, the global empath, the geomantic, the environmental, the animal, and the physical. So I'm super curious to see which ones that you guys resonate most with. And again, if it's more than one, I resonate with 1, 2, 3. I resonate with 3 of these out of the 8. I'm very curious to see which you do. I'm curious to see if anybody resonates with all 8. Talk about sensitivity overload. But I'm curious to see. So, and if you guys want to drop any additional ones that you've heard of, I'm open to it. So let me know. I respond really quickly. Okay, guys, thank you so much. It was so good giving you guys these 8 definitions and sending so much love to you guys. I will be recording more videos, obviously, on empaths and everything, intuition and soul. And hopefully I'll see you guys next time.